Exposed, how a billionaire family's mockery of a CEO's son led to their 900M empire's incredible fall. Jake Thompson stood at the entrance of the lavish charity gala, the chill of the evening air caught in his throat. The ballroom spilled over with diamonds, silk, and laughter. He glanced around, his heart pounding as he thought of his father, the hardworking CEO who had clawed his way from blue-collar roots to corporate success. Now, amidst the glimmering elite, Jake felt out of place, like a white cap among a sea of black tie attire. The whispers of his childhood and the values his father instilled began crunching underfoot like fallen leaves. As he stepped into the crowd, the laughter became background noise, a constant reminder of the wealth that surrounded him. But everything took a turn when the notorious billionaire family entered, a spectacle of privilege and arrogance. Their mockery echoed off the gilded walls like a hideous anthem. "Look at him, what a joke," one of them sneered, pointing toward Jake. The laughter that followed sliced through the air, making his chest tighten painfully, a fist clutching at the identity he struggled to define. That he thought of his father, the man who embodied resilience and integrity. Jake felt fragments of himself scatter like confetti in the wind. The very blue-collar roots the billionaire family ridiculed were the foundation of his and his father's worth. Each chuckle reminded him that he was a son of struggle in a room full of privilege, one that should mean family but felt more like a prison. Before he could even process the humiliation, a stirring of determination ignited within him. Fueled by growing indignation, he sought to bridge the staggering divide between them. He decided to organize community events to unite the townsfolk, hoping that together, they could reclaim their pride. But when he presented his plans at family dinners, his parents' dismissive glances stung like splinters. "Why waste time on them, Jake?" his father would say, his voice dripping with disdain. "Status is all that matters now." Tension thickened with each bite of mashed potatoes. The divide grew, isolating him from his own family. But as Jake began to connect with local veterans and elders sharing their stories of perseverance, a new strength bubbled to the surface. Each tear-stained tale woven with hope rekindled the flicker of a dream. His dream. He could create a united front. Then came the community assembly, a chance to confront the billionaire family head-on. Heart racing, Jake stood at the podium. The mocking stares of the elite bore down upon him like a summer sun. But instead of faltering, he let the ridicule fuel his passion. "We are not your joke," he proclaimed, rallying the townspeople behind him, the energy in the room shifting palpably. The echoes of laughter faded as they began to rise with him, igniting a fire of unity that rattled through the crowd. But just as hope flickered to life, a tide of tension loomed over him, threatening to tear apart everything he fought for. He glanced at his parents, their faces a mixture of confusion and disappointment, leaving him at the precipice of redemption or ruin. His heart raced, echoing the question he had to face alone: could he reshape the American dream while honoring his roots? The crowd's energy surged, and Jake knew this was only the beginning. As he stood determinedly before them, he felt the weight of countless eyes, those of his future, his family, and his community. As the question loomed larger, would he rise above their mockery, or would he be swallowed by the darkness of it? With a shaky breath, Jake scanned the sea of faces in front of him, a blend of hope and anxiety washing over him. The townspeople, their eyes alight with a determination that mirrored his own, were waiting for him to set the tone. Each heartbeat felt like a drumbeat pushing him onward. "We deserve better," he shouted, his voice cutting through the stillness like a hot knife through butter. The words hung in the air, electrifying, as members of the crowd began to nod. That he could see Alice, the elderly woman who had lived in the town for decades, her hands trembling with age but her spirit unwavering. "Yes, right," she called out. "We built this town with our hands." The ripple of agreement swelled around him, echoing against the gilded walls that had once felt alien. Jake could hardly believe it. The voices were gaining strength, forming a choir that countered the laughter of the elite, but the shadows in the back of the room stirred. Members of the billionaire family exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from amusement to irritation. Jake steeled himself against their stares, choosing to focus on the faces that mattered, the faces of his neighbors, his friends, the ones who had believed in him. It was their grins and tears that fueled him, not the scorn of the privileged. As the crowd roared in response, Jake felt something nasal click within him. A bond was forming. His idea to organize community events felt like more than just a dream. Now it was blossoming into reality. With each person who stepped forward, sharing their own stories of struggle and resilience, the atmosphere thickened with raw emotion. The laughter of the elite turned to whispers of doubt and disbelief. Then, unexpectedly, his father's voice rang out above the commotion, heavy with disapproval. "You're making a fool of yourself, Jake." The words landed like lead weights in an already turbulent sea. His heart sank. How could he show his father the strength of unity if he didn't believe it? "Dad, this isn't just about me. It's about all of us," Jake shouted back, desperation creeping into his voice. The crowd fell silent, caught off guard by the confrontation. Even the billionaire family seemed momentarily distracted. Jake took a deep breath, shifting gears. "They may have wealth and power," he continued, "but we have heart, and we have each other." The crowd erupted, and for a moment, the room felt electric. Yet, as Jake's adrenaline surged, he couldn't shake the chill that wrapped around him from his parents. Fears lurked in the recesses of his mind. Would his family turn their backs on him forever? Would he be forced to choose between his roots and the life he aspired to build? Finally, something shifted in the air. A voice he hadn't anticipated rang out from the back, a voice that trembled but held steady resolve. It was Tom, the town mechanic, who had always watched Jake grow. "We stand together. No one can break what we've built here." Those words struck a chord like music, inviting more supporters to step forward, echoing with the chants of solidarity that rose up toward the ceiling. In that moment, as hope intertwined with doubt, Jake realized the fight was far from over. This could be the beginning of a new legacy or the end of the dream he held so tightly. "Join me," he called out, "not just for this fight but for every fight to come. We can shape our future, but we need each other." The fire in him ignited the kind of resolve that could reshape destinies, sending shockwaves through the crowd both inside and outside. But as enchantment hung suspended, Jake couldn't help but feel the shadows lurking in the corners of the ballroom grow darker. The billionaire family shifted, readying their counter. What would they do next? As their eyes met his, the question loomed larger than before. Were they willing to unleash the storm ahead? Jake's heart raced, the weight of countless eyes pressing down on him, some filled with admiration while others dripped with disdain. The air was thick with expectancy, a charged atmosphere where hope and fear danced a delicate waltz. He could see it in the faces of those he loved, the excitement but also the trepidation. Then, as if sensing the turning tide, the eldest of the billionaire family stepped forward. Victor, with his silver hair slicked back and a sharp suit that seemed to mock the very fabric of their town, looked down upon the gathered crowd with a mixture of amusement and irritation. His lips curled into a sneer, revealing a sense of superiority that sent a ripple of rage through Jake's veins. "Really, Jake? You think they care what you think?" Victor's voice dripped with condescension, echoing off the ornate chandeliers above. "This town has thrived on our investments. You should thank us for the opportunities you've been given." Jake bit back the impulse to lash out. He could feel the unease radiating from the townsfolk, their spirits dimming under Victor's withering gaze. But he couldn't let that happen. "Not now. You've taken from us, Victor," Jake shouted, the fire igniting once more within him. "You may provide for us, but you've done it at a cost. Our voices, our lives, they don't belong to your empire." A murmur swept through the crowd, a wave of affection and solidarity bubbling to the surface. Tom nodded resolutely at Jake, rallying the spirits around him like a beacon in stormy seas. The billionaire family's facade cracked, just a hint of surprise flickering across their confident expressions. Victor glanced at his siblings, confusion briefly casting shadows on their faces. Jake seized the moment. "Look around you. This is our town. It's built on our sweat and tears. We deserve to live, not merely survive as you profit." His voice swelled with emotion, pouring every ounce of his anguish and determination into the words. the elderly Alice stepped forward, her voice stronger now. He's right. If we fall silent, we'll never rise. The energy in the room shifted dramatically. Encouragement spread like wildfire, lifting the spirits of the hesitant. Yes, they could stand united. They could step beyond fear, but the billionaire family was not easily swayed. Victor's narrowed eyes turned sharp. You think you can take us on? You're just a bunch of dreamers clinging to misguided beliefs. You'll regret this when you realize how naive you truly are. Jake's heart pounded. He could feel the shifting tides, the urgency rising. Every second counted. Regret? He echoed, leaning closer. Regret is turning your back on the very people who built your name. Regret is allowing greed to drown us. The crowd erupted again, buoyed by Jake's unwavering resolve. Even those who had once clung to the comforts of wealth were now restless, their eyes alive with a rebellious spark. Suddenly, Jake's father stepped forward, battling the tide of emotions swirling in the room. Son, he said, voice strained. This isn't how we handle things. You don't want to throw away everything we've worked for. Jake felt a sting at his father's disappointment. But this was his moment. I can't sit back while our future hangs in the balance, Dad. We can't settle for crumbs off a wealthy table. The tension in the room hummed, thickening like a dense fog as all eyes shifted uncertainly between father and son. Would his father stand with him, or would he remain in the shadow of the elite? The silence stretched, each passing second feeling like an eternity. Then, from the back, Tom raised his voice again, calling out, Jake. We're with you. We'll fight together. With those words, the room surged, a tidal wave of defiance washing over them, but as the crowd rallied around Jake, Victor stepped closer, a sneer creeping back into place. Very well, then. Let the games begin. And with that statement, the battle lines were drawn. Jake stood on the brink of something colossal, his heart daring to hope but a nagging fear lingered. What had he just started? As the tension brewed, the next move was looming, and he knew the answer would ripple through both the town and the world beyond. Would this stand be their salvation or their undoing? Jake stood at the center of the storm, feeling every pulse of defiance coursing through the crowd like electricity. It was a moment born out of years of frustration, a life of watching the rich prosper while others struggled. He could see the spark in the eyes around him, the glimmer of hope combating the shadows of oppression. But hope alone wasn't enough. They needed a strategy, a focal point that would channel that energy into action. The silence after Victor's taunt was unbearable. Jake's heart raced as he scanned the crowd. He saw old friends, families torn apart by financial strains, and individuals who groaned to resent their heavy-handed benefactors. The moment had arrived to lead them, to rally this community around a singular cause, something they could all fight for. Everyone. He called out, raising his voice above the low murmurs that threatened to drown their momentum. Let us be clear, this isn't just about me and the billionaire family. This is about all of us. We've all got stories. Stories filled with hard work, sacrifices, dreams. They're not just ours to bear, they're ours to share. If we stand united, we can take back our voices. Energetic calls erupted in response, echoing off the walls as more townsfolk found their voices. Yes. We're with you, Jake. Take it back. Feeling the rush of their support, he pressed on. We need to come together, form a committee, a coalition. Let us create a dialogue with the billionaire family, but on our terms. Demand fair wages, transparency, and respect for our rights. It's time they hear us, not as the unwashed masses, but as a community deserving of dignity. Victor raised an eyebrow, less amused now. Dialogue? He scoffed, his tone oozing sarcasm. You think they'll listen to a crowd of voices that have no value? Watch us. Jake shot back, his adrenaline surging. This is our moment. You think you can belittle us forever? We have more strength in our unity than you have in your bank account. We are not afraid. The sound of applause erupted a tidal wave of approval. He could see Tom standing tall, fists pumping in the air, urging the crowd on. The energy was palpable. It was as if the walls of the old town hall themselves were leaning in to hear what would happen next. It was no longer just Jake against Victor. It was the entire community against a power that had kept them silenced for too long, yet, with every surge of enthusiasm came a creeping unease. The reality of what was at stake pressed heavily on Jake's shoulders. What if Victor took matters into his own hands? What would happen to their jobs, their homes? The billionaire family had claws, and they wouldn't hesitate to use them. Before Jake could get lost in those thoughts, Alice was at his side. You're doing it, Jake. The fight is from here on out. Don't you dare let anyone take that away from you. Her encouragement struck a chord, emboldening him even further. Suddenly, a loud crash from the back of the hall caught everyone's attention. A sharp gasp hung in the air. A figure pushed through the crowd, a young woman, eyes wide and trembling, clutching a folder tightly against her chest. The murmur shifted from excitement to concern. Jake! She cried, breaking through. They're planning something big. The billionaire family. Jake felt the room tense, a collective breath held, anticipation thick. What was she going to say? As the uncertainty hung, the tension snapped like a bowstring. He knew the war was about to become much more complicated. What was the billionaire family truly up to? And how could they fight against a foe that was always one step ahead? The questions lingered as Jake steeled himself for the next chapter of this unfolding saga. Things were heating up, and soon there would be no turning back. What choices would he and his town have to make to secure their future? The young woman's eyes darted around the room before they finally settled back on Jake. Her voice, a mix of fear and urgency, broke through the murmurings of the crowd. I overheard them. They're planning to cut wages again, but that's not all. Her breath hitched. They're going to use their influence to crush any opposition. They've got connections, Jake. Important ones. Gasps rippled through the gathering as whispers grew louder, the realization hitting hard. This wasn't just an economic battle anymore, this was war. Jake's stomach twisted, the harrowing implications sinking in. His mind spun with images of lives being uprooted, families suffering if they didn't act decisively. Victor stepped forward, a twisted smile playing on his lips. What's the matter? Scared? This is only the beginning, and I'm sure you'll enjoy your place back under our heel. With every word, the tension mounted. Jake could sense the shifting energy in the room, the fear in people's eyes began to morph into something more potent: resolve. They weren't going to cower. They were angry. Enough! Jake shouted, cutting through the noise. We can't let them intimidate us. This is our opportunity to show them that we're not backing down. They might think they hold the cards, but we have the power of our community. He turned to the young woman. What else did you hear? What's their plan? The woman swallowed hard, her hands trembling as she gripped the folder tighter. I overheard them talking about a major investment, something in the works that could change everything. They're going to use it to leverage us, push us down even further. Jake's mind raced. This was bigger than he thought. He needed to rally his people but also devise a strategy to counter the billionaire family's maneuvers. Listen. He called, trying to wield the crowd's attention. We need to find out more. Knowledge is our greatest weapon. Let us use this knowledge to turn the game back in our favor. We need to infiltrate, gather information, push back. A wave of murmurs rolled through as people exchanged glances. How can we do that? Someone called out from the back. Jake could feel the weight of those eyes. They were looking to him for direction. We form working groups. Meet in secret. Share information, keep an ear to the ground. We can use social media to spread the word. Let the world know who we are and what's happening here. Yes. Alice chimed in, her face glowing with excitement. We can start a campaign. A petition. Let the billionaire family know they aren't untouchable. The energy shifted again. Now tangible hope burned brightly among them, igniting a fire Jake hoped could not be extinguished. But he remained acutely aware of the risk. If they were caught, it could mean retaliation that could devastate their livelihoods. Suddenly, a hard voice cut through the enthusiasm. And if you're wrong? It was Victor, his arrogance reappearing. You think a few whispers will scare us? You're playing with fire, and you'll get burned. A hush fell over the crowd. Jake's heart pounded. Was it worth the risk? But as he scanned the sea of faces, he saw the determination reflected back at him. A community ready to fight. It's now or never, Jake said, voice steady and clear. If we stand together, we can take the fight to them, show them we aren't going down without a battle. Who's with me? Hands rose in the air, cheers erupted like thunder. Hope surged through him like a whirlwind. They had stepped off the edge together, and he wasn't about to let them fall, but in the back of his mind, a shadow loomed. The billionaire family wouldn't ignore them forever. What would their next move be? As Jake raised his fists in solidarity, uncertainty gnawed at him about the forces they were about to unleash. With the stakes set high and a battle looming, Jake sensed the rush of an inevitable confrontation ahead, one that could change everything for his community. How far would they go to reclaim their lives? And at what cost? The meeting buzzed with energy, but Jake could feel the weight of the task ahead pressing down on him. Plans were being formed, voices rising in spirited discussions as people assigned roles in their makeshift rebellion. He watched a small group huddle in the corner, voices urgent as they sketched ideas for social media campaigns. Soon, they'd be spreading the word about the exploitation happening right before their eyes. Jake! Alice called, grabbing his attention. What if we set up a public forum? Invite speakers, share testimonials. Show the world we won't be silenced. Her enthusiasm was infectious. A wave of approval swept through the crowd. They saw a path, a flicker of light in the dark tunnel of despair that had surrounded them for so long. It felt good, too good, as if the community was finally finding its voice. Great idea, Alice, Jake said, his voice steadier than he felt. But we'll need to be smart about this. Throwing ourselves into the open could attract unwanted attention. We need to be careful. Victor remained a lurking presence, his cynical laughter echoing in Jake's mind. He had to ensure that they didn't become fodder for the battle the billionaire family was preparing to wage against them. As the group split into smaller teams, Jake felt pulled to a corner table where the young woman sat alone, wringing her hands. Hey, he said softly, slipping into the seat across from her. You're still with us, right? I know this is a lot to take in. She looked up, eyes brimming with uncertainty. What if we get caught? What if they retaliate? Jake leaned closer, sincere and determined. Believe me, I get it. But look around. We need this. People have lost their livelihoods, their dignity. If we don't stand up now, they'll keep pushing us down. We can't let fear control us. Her lips quivered slightly, but she nodded, finally finding a sliver of conviction. I saw you lighting the spark in everyone else. I want to help. I just don't know how. Share what you know, he urged, feeling their connection deepen. We need every piece of information, every voice willing to fight back. You've already done more than you realize. Just as he was about to pivot back to the bustling center of the gathering, another voice broke in. If you think exposing them will make a difference, you're fooling yourselves. It was Victor again, impossibly close, sneering as he leaned against the wall. You have no idea what kind of retaliation you're setting in motion. People like them don't play fair. Facing Victor, Jake felt the adrenaline surge. Then let them come. We're not afraid of bullies. If anything, we've been waiting for a chance to expose their corruption. Victor paused, seemingly contemplating something, then laughed again, a cold, chilling sound that echoed around them. You think it'll be that easy? You'll see. I'll be waiting when you crash and burn. A wave of unease washed over the group as Victor retreated, but it was clear his words lingered like a thick fog. Was this recklessness or courage? Jake took a deep breath, glancing at each face around him. Anguish, hope, but most prominent was fierce determination. Right, he declared, lifting his chin. Let us get back to work. We have a chance to do something incredible. This is our moment. Each of you is part of this fight. Together, we will rise. As they shifted gears, hope filled the air again, even as fear remained a whisper in the back of Jake's mind. He knew they were heading toward a confrontation that would test their resolve and unity to its limits, but what if Victor was right? The prospect of being crushed under the weight of the billionaire family's power loomed ominously. The risk was real, and so was the chaos that was coming their way. Would they stand firm, or would the threat of power send them spiraling? As they moved forward, a dangerous undercurrent pulsed in the air, hinting at the storm that awaited them. Would Jake be ready to face it? The air crackled with anticipation when they reconvened the following evening. The community center buzzed with restless energy, the dim lights casting a spotlight on their anxious faces. Jake stood at the front, determined to uplift them, even as the weight of doubt lingered in corners of his mind. All right, everyone, he began, clearing his throat. Tonight, we'll finalize our plan for the forum. We need everyone's input. Every voice matters now. Alice nodded fervently, seated in the front row. We should identify key issues for the speakers to address. The exploitation of workers, unfair wages. It must be personal. Testimonials that resonate. Yeah. People need to feel the weight of our stories, chimed in another member, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, burdened by the struggle. They need to understand what we've lost. Jake felt a swell of pride watching them rally around each other. This was more than a fight, it was a collective awakening. Yet, Victor's warning rang in his ears. Doubt had a way of infecting hope. Okay, but remember, Jake interjected, we need to control the narrative. We can't just hand them our stories without preparation. We need a strategy. As discussions flew around him, he noticed the young woman from the previous meeting, still shy but visibly engaged now. She raised her hand tentatively. What if we create a video? Something to circulate online before the event. A teaser that pulls people in. The group nodded, enthusiasm growing. Jake felt her courage ignite a flame of excitement. That's brilliant, he said, heart racing. We can film a few testimonials, then share snippets on social media. It'll create a buzz, draw attention but be strategic about it. But what if they try to shut us down? We already know they don't play fair, the middle-aged man reminded them, vigilance flickering in his eyes. Then we adapt. Jake's voice erupted with warmth and confidence. This is about resilience. We'll be the voice they can't ignore. Even if we face backlash, it brings light to our cause. Cheers and affirmations echoed. He felt invigorated, but beneath that strength, his heartbeat quickened at the thought of retaliation and its potential repercussions. Just then, a loud bang echoed through the hall, and the door swung open abruptly. The cheerful vibe shattered like glass. In entered a group of stern-faced figures, sharply dressed and exuding an uncomfortable authority. Excuse the interruption, one man spoke, scanning the room with calculated coldness. We just wanted to see how the preparations were going for your little gathering. It's certainly an interesting approach. The tension in the room turned thick as fog. Jake swallowed hard as the memory of Victor's laughter replayed in his mind. This was no coincidence, they had come to intimidate. Who are you? One of the participants demanded, anger rising like bile. The man smirked as if savoring their fear. Just a few concerned citizens. We wouldn't want you to make any mistakes that could lead to unwelcome consequences. Beside Jake, Alice's hands curled into fists, her eyes blazing. You can't scare us. We're not backing down. We will be heard. Her voice rang strong, an anchor in the chaos. Jake sensed camaraderie bloom among the group, their unity solidifying in the face of this intimidation. The man shrugged, his confidence unshaken. Feel free to proceed, but don't say we didn't warn you. They pivoted and exited as swiftly as they had entered, leaving behind an eerie silence. What do we do now? Someone whispered, uncertainty creeping back into the air. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the stirrings of fear rise again within him. We prepare. This is a sign that we've hit a nerve. But we can't be deterred. He scanned the worried faces, catching the fading embers of hope. Strength is born from struggle. We push forward. A collective nod went through the group, each person silently renewing their commitment. But in the back of Jake's mind lingered the very real fear of what retaliation might mean for them, all the risks igniting like fireworks in the dark. As they resumed their planning, Jake caught a glimpse of the shadows outside the windows, a looming reminder that they were standing on the precipice of something monumental. Would they stand their ground or fold under pressure? The answer hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty, as they faced the storm that was coming. What awaited them next? Jake felt the weight of uncertainty lingering in the room. The energy had shifted, now charged with a palpable tension. When the stern figures left, they hadn't just exited the building, they had left seeds of fear behind that began to sprout doubt among the hopeful faces staring back at him. What if they come back? A voice broke through the silence, filled with tremors. Or worse, what if they try to destroy our video? Asked another, glancing at Jake for reassurance that he sensed the fear growing, wrapping around them like an unyielding vine. We're not the ones in the wrong here, he insisted, his voice rising above the murmurs. We're raising awareness. This is about fighting for our dignity. Alice interjected, her fierce spirit cutting through the thick air. They don't understand what it's like for us out here. They can't silence our truth. If we share our stories, we can change lives. Jake's heart surged at her words, igniting something deep within. Exactly. Our stories are powerful. They connect us. We're human, and we refuse to be ignored. As the group seemed to rally back from the brink of despair, Jake could see the flickers of determination igniting again. Initiatively, Alice stood, pointing toward the window, where the sun dipped low, casting long shadows on the pavement outside. Let us get each story down. Let us film it all. Whatever happens, we need our voices out there. Nervous affirmations echoed, and Jake felt the air shift once more. There's a stark beauty in fighting back, he thought, as one by one, members stood to share their experiences, revealing weariness in their voices but also the fire of conviction. The atmosphere transformed as they brainstormed locations for filming, discussing who they would feature. Laughter mixed with serious tones when they talked about what angles would emphasize their strength. Collaboration had never felt so important. It reminded Jake of something he had read once about the power of community, the unbreakable bond forged in trials. As the meeting wound down, they began to finalize their plan for the week ahead. Despite the looming threat, the group expressed excitement for the video. Jake felt the weight on his own shoulders ease slightly, yet it was quickly replaced by the understanding that something was indeed about to break. Let us meet here tomorrow to start filming, he said, closing the meeting. Everyone agreed, nodding enthusiastically, but Jake saw the twinkle of apprehension hiding behind their excitement. Just as they started to disperse, he noticed the quiet girl from earlier hanging back, her face pensive. Jake approached her, sensing a whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. Hey, you okay? He asked softly, concerned. I want to do this right. I've heard stories from my family about retaliation, she said, her voice shaking. And it scares me. What if they come after me? Her vulnerability struck a chord in Jake. He understood. Standing up had its cost. You're not alone. We're in this together. Whatever happens, we face it as a team. No one gets left behind. She offered a tentative smile, the kind that held both trust and fear. Okay. I'll do my part. As she walked away, Jake felt uncertain emotions steeping within him. They were all risking something: safety, comfort, perhaps even dreams. Would it be enough to counterbalance the fear they faced? He hoped so. That night, the air was thick with anticipation, almost humming. Jake couldn't shake the sense that everything was set to change soon. As he lay in bed, he felt the weight of the night resting heavily on his chest. What would tomorrow bring? Would they find their voices or face the storm threatening to drown them out? Jake found himself grappling with the ultimate question: could they truly withstand whatever came next? The answer lingered, just out of reach, waiting to be uncovered. The next morning broke dark and cloudy. Jake's heart raced as he trudged to the meeting space. The uncertainty of what lay ahead twisted in his stomach like a live wire. He arrived early, hoping to set the mood before the others arrived. He spread out the camera gear on the table, the cold metal reminding him of the flimsy barrier between their dreams and the harsh realities they faced. Each piece of equipment felt like an anchor, weighing down on his hopes with a heavy doubt. When the others began filtering in, their spirits seemed mixed yet expectant. Alice was the first to cheerfully enter, a bright scarf wrapped around her neck like armor. "Good morning. Are we ready to change the world?" She grinned. Jake mustered a smile. "We're ready to start something special, that's for sure." As the group gathered, he scanned their faces, each one a reflection of the night's worries. Some were visibly nervous, while others wore tentative smiles. They shared a collective breath, the kind that signified both trust and hesitation. "Okay," Jake began, gripping the edges of the table, "I know we're all feeling the weight of everything going on. But remember why we're doing this. We're not just telling our stories. We're creating connections, building something bigger than ourselves." There were nods, soft murmurs of agreement. This was it, they were ready. He felt their resolve pulsing around him. Alice stepped forward, her eyes ablaze. "Let us start with the stories that matter most to us. Who wants to go first?" A few moments passed, the silence thick but charged, until the quiet girl from yesterday, Emma, spoke up nervously. "I can go." Jake's heart raced as he nodded, urging her on. With hesitant steps, she took the floor, her face pale. "I grew up in a family that struggled to make ends meet," she began, her voice shaking but growing stronger with each word. "Every day, it was about stretching pennies to get by. But I've watched those kinds of fears tear families apart. If I can share my story, maybe it can help someone else." As she spoke, Jake felt the power of her voice. The room transformed. Her vulnerability struck a chord, resonating deep within everyone. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Tears glistened in her eyes, and the relief on her face said everything. One by one, they shared their stories. Each tale brought forth laughter, pain, and connection, weaving an intricate tapestry of collective experiences. Jake recorded every moment, feeling the energy shift into something unparalleled, yet, despite the warmth blossoming among them, Jake kept glancing toward the door, half expecting the stern figures to come bursting in, ready to dismantle everything they were building. The tension coiled tighter with every passing minute. When Alice completed her story, she turned to Jake. "You should share yours too. This is all about transparency, right?" The room fell silent. Jake felt the weight of this request pressing down on him. He had always been the one supporting everyone else. Would sharing his truth be too much? As he stared at the faces around him, faces filled with hope, fear, and determination, he realized that being truthful about his own struggles could strengthen their bond even more. Drawing a deep breath, Jake stepped forward. "I'll share." Just then, a loud crash echoed from outside the building, shaking their collective focus. The door rattled, and every pair of eyes turned wide in alarm. What was that? Someone whispered, a cold wave of dread washing over them. Jake's heart raced as a chilling thought crept in. Were they being targeted already? The question loomed large: was their bravery enough to protect them from whatever was coming next? He took a step back, scanning the faces around him, now filled with anxiety. Does courage have a limit? As the sound of heavy footsteps approached the door, he knew one thing: they were on the brink of something life-changing. But at what cost? The heavy door burst open, and the group collectively froze, their breaths caught in unison. In strode Victor and a couple of his family members, arrogance radiating like heat from a flame. Jake's heart sank. The confrontation they had been anticipating had arrived, perhaps earlier than expected. "Quite the gathering you have here," Victor smirked, surveying the anxious faces. "It's adorable, really. Do you think a couple of tearful stories will change anything? You're wasting your time." Jake clenched his fists. "These are our lives, Victor. You can't dismiss that." The air thickened with tension. "Oh, but I can. Your struggles," he chuckled bitterly, "they are just background noise to those who matter." Victor stepped closer, eyes narrowing, his demeanor as sharp as his tailored suit. "You think you can stand against us? You're nothing but ants trying to push over a giant. You'll get crushed." That was it. The fear bubbling beneath him transformed into a fiery resolve. "We're not afraid of you. Our stories resonate with the power of truth, and that matters more than your wealth." The room trembled with an undercurrent of anticipation as his voice rang stronger, pushing back the intimidation. The townsfolk shifted, courage inflating among them like a balloon. Someone whispered, "We believe in Jake." Victor's facade of authority faltered for a tiny moment, but he quickly masked it with a scoff. "This ends now. You either back down or face severe consequences." "Not going to happen," Jake said, standing taller. "If you want to crush us, you'll have to do it in front of the whole town." Alice interjected, her voice crackling with energy, "This is about more than just standing up to you, Victor. It's about showing every worker in this town that their voices matter." Another member shouted, "We're together, and together we're stronger." The sentiment rippled through the room, echoing the steadfastness of their struggle. Victor's smile faded, each moment brimming with dread for him and his family. "Don't say I didn't warn you." With a dramatic flourish and a final smirk, he turned to stalk out, his family trailing behind. The door slammed shut behind them, the sound deafening, leaving a stunned silence in its wake. Then, like a dam breaking, the tension burst. Everyone erupted into cheers loud and jubilant, the kind that rattled the very walls of uncertainty. "We did it!" someone exclaimed. Jake felt an electrifying rush surge through him. "No, this isn't over. This is just our first step. We'll film, share, and spread the truth. We have to be relentless." Tears slipped down the cheeks of some, hope bloomed in every heart. They were no longer just a collection of individuals. They had transformed into a united force, a community ready to stand against the gilded armor of the wealthy. In the following days, they filmed tirelessly, gripping the beauty of their shared narratives. Every soul unveiled stories of hardship, resilience, and dreams long suppressed. The editing crew became a tapestry of laughter and inspiration, threading together their struggles into something palpable. As the day of the public forum dawned, the air was alive with determination. The community center filled beyond expectation, people stood outside, eager to bear witness to the awakening of voices once silenced. Jake stood at the front, gazing out at the sea of hopeful faces. The crowd hushed as he acknowledged them. "Thank you for being here. Today is about reaffirming our strength, about showing the world who we are." His words flowed like sunlight, brightening spirits. The elderly, veterans, and families leaned in as his voice rang out, igniting memories of unity, labor, and vision. Together, they danced around the shadows that had loomed over them for too long, no longer cowering, but standing tall. The video they had created transcended mere testimonies, it became an anthem for their shared struggle. Every shared story resonated, weaving a complex pillow of experiences stitched together with common dreams and longings. When Jake shared his own voice, emotions erupted. "This fight is not just mine. It belongs to each of you. Together, we'll reclaim our lives." When he finished, applause erupted thunderous, like rain pounding against a parched landscape, healing and revitalizing. They had done it. They had turned vulnerability into power. The shadows of the premium family retreated for the moment as their influence began to wane. News broke across social media with hashtags trending voices of the community and rise together. Weeks slipped by, their activism molded into a movement. And as the tide changed, Jake realized that they hadn't just taken a stand against the billionaire family, they had reignited their own destinies. United as never before, the townsfolk reclaimed their dignity, reminding Jake of the roots he fought hard to honor. The essence of their struggle boiled down to what he believed in most: belonging, purpose, and a future shaped by their collective will. In the midst of their triumph, Jake discovered something profound: their fight, above all, defined their character. They were not just survivors in the storm, they were the wind, unwavering and relentless. And as Jake stared into the horizon, the sun began to break through the clouds, illuminating a path paved with hope, determination, and resilience. They would face whatever came next together. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support the channel by taking action. Every bit matters. Don't wait not even one more second to share.